Chapter 11 Gravity, Friction, and more forces in everyday life. Every year we look in our day-to-day lives, we see forces in action. Gravity, the attractive force between object with mass. Gravity is always a pull, never push. Gravity is not just the force we see when objects fall to the ground. Gravity affects all masses. Gravity is the force of attraction between all things that have mass. The strength of gravity depends on both the mass and the distance between masses. Large masses have more gravity, and also objects that are closer will always pull on you with more gravity. If gravity affects all objects, why aren't you pulled to a building when you walk past it? The force of gravity between objects on Earth is so tiny that we don't even feel it, especially when compared to the force of gravity from Earth itself. Gravity is also what keeps the Earth in orbit around the Sun. The Sun has so much mass that it exerts a gravitational force on our entire solar system, keeping all of the planets, including Earth, in orbit. Why aren't the planets in orbit around the Sun pulled toward it? Because despite the Sun's gravity, the planets are also moving sideways. If swinging a yo-yo around your body, you are pulling it toward yourself, holding on it. It's a string that's like the sun's gravity. But the motion sideways keeps the yo-yo swinging around in the same circle. Weight is actually a measure of gravitational force. Weight depends on both of force of gravity and the mass of the object. If you weigh two objects on a scale, the object with more mass will weigh more. Mass doesn't depend on location, but weight doesn't because gravitational force can change depending on your location. For example, the force of gravity is less on the moon than it's on Earth. The force of gravity depends on mass, and because the moon has less mass than the Earth, it has a smaller gravitational force. Therefore, the same object will weigh less on the moon than it will on Earth, about 1/6 as much. Because gravity pulls you down toward the Earth, there is a constant acceleration toward the ground. The force of gravity on Earth is approximately 9.8 meters per second squared. When you throw something up in the air, it gets slower until it stops in midair and then comes back down toward the Earth, accelerating down until it crashes into the ground. This is negative acceleration. Friction. Newton's first law states that an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted on by a net force. Try sliding this notebook across the table. It slows down and eventually stops. So, what's the net force that's affecting the book? Friction. It's the force that opposes movement between touching surfaces and always acts against the direction of motion. When you ride a skateboard, the wheels slow down due to friction with the sidewalk and with the bearing in the wheels. In general, rougher surfaces have more friction. Sandpaper is harder to slide than normal paper because it has a rougher surface and therefore more friction. On the other hand, you can minimize the force of friction by greasing surfaces. Even our bodies have ways to reduce friction. We have fluid in our knees to reduce joint friction. There is also friction with air and water. The more technical term for friction with air is air resistance. When you drop a feeder, it flows from side to side because air resistance opposite the downward movement because friction is the force that opposite movement between surfaces in contact. Object with more surface area will have more air resistance. Some other types of friction are static friction. The force of friction between surfaces not in motion. Static friction is the result of molecular on one surface adhering to the other surfaces. No motion forces. Static resistance. Sliding friction, also known as kinetic friction, the force of friction that affects the surface in motion. When you are pushing a box, force of friction that resists the motion is sliding friction, because the forces aren't always bound like they are in static friction. Sliding friction is less powerful than static friction. Sliding friction. Force. Sliding friction. Rolling friction. Friction between surfaces when an object, such as a wheel or a ball, rolls freely over a surface. The friction between the wheel of a skateboard and the sidewalk is rolling friction. Rolling friction is weaker than sliding friction, which is why it's much easier to move something on wheels. Rolling motion, force, rolling friction. Terminal velocity. When an object is falling to the ground, there are two forces acting on it: the force of gravity and the force air resistance that is opposing its motion. When the air resistance equals the force of gravity on the subject, there is no net force on the object. The forces are balanced. Without a net force, the object stops accelerating and it continues falling at a constant speed. Terminal velocity is the speed at which the force of gravity equals air resistance. This speed depends on many factors, including an object's surface area, mass, how the object is oriented, and even the thickness of the air. Magnetic and electric forces. When you play with a magnet, you can feel either an attractive or a repelling force. A magnet is a material that's attracted iron, steel, or other magnets. Magnets have a positive and negative end. Positive charges attract and like charges repel. So when you place a positive with a negative end, the magnetic forces will together. If you try to touch a negative end with another negative end, or sometimes referred to as a north and south end, attract, repel, or positive with a positive will feel a repulsive force. They push each other away. Electric forces are like magnetic forces in the way they are caused by positive and negative charge in the metal, while the magnetic forces are created by unmoving charge. Electric forces are created by moving charges. The strength of both electric and magnetic forces is related to the amount of charge and the distance between charges. Electric and magnetic forces increase when the charge is stronger and when the charges are closer together. Electric forces, the attractive force between opposite charges and the repulsive force between like charges. Electromagnetism is the interaction of electric forces and magnetic field. Any electric charge is in motion have a magnetic region around it. A wire that carries an electric current is surrounded by a magnetic field. You can make an electromagnet by wrapping a current-carrying wire around the iron core, just like other magnet. One end is a north pole, and the other is a south pole. North, south, battery, plus, minus. The north and the south ends of a bar are determined by the direction of the flow of electricity. If you reverse the flow, the charge reverses. Centripetal force. Because velocity includes both speed and direction, an object in circular motion is constantly changing its velocity and therefore accelerating. Because an object in circular motion is accelerating, there must be an outside force acting it. According to Newton's second law, force equals mass multiplied by acceleration. The force affecting an object in circular motion is called centripetal force. A centripetal force always points toward the center of a circular path of motion. Centripetal force. The force that causes an object to follow a curved or circular path and is directed inward toward the center of rotation. Centripetal force. A centripetal force can be any number of things. The moon moves in a circular orbit around the Earth. It's affected by the centripetal force of gravity. If we swing a yo-yo around in a circle, tension from the string is the centripetal force that keeps the yo-yo in circular motion. Buoyancy and density. The force keeps rubber ducky floating. It's called buoyant force. The buoyant force is an upward force exerted by a fluid onto an object that's immersed in the fluid. The buoyant force depends on the density of the fluid and the amount of fluid that the object displaces. The denser the fluid and the less fluid displaced, the stronger the buoyant force. The buoyant force is actually equal to the weight of the fluid that has been displaced, which is a principle called Archimedes' principle. Don't forget, an object placed in fluid will float if it's less dense than the fluid, and it will sink if it's denser than the fluid.